Alright, everyone, it's time for another episode of Adams for the Love of Movie Picks. This time around, we're going to be talking about the 2006 South Korean horror film, The Host. It even says right in the title, one of the greatest monster movies ever made. I think I would agree with that title. Not just from a South Korean standpoint, it's like monster movies overall. I would agree it's one of the greatest monster movies ever made. Yeah, like I said, made and produced in South Korea, or released in South Korea. Eventually got an international, worldwide release. So the premise of it takes some facts from real life versus obviously fiction. Um, there's this problems all over the world. Basically, the premise it starts off. They choose a weird chemical to begin with. I don't know if it even has these kind of, mutagenic, toxic properties, but it's either a morgue or a funeral home dumps a bunch of bottles of old bottles, I should say, of formaldehyde down the drain, and they end up in the local river, the Han River. And they end up mutating this fish or some creature either multiple fish or fish become part of it. It's they don't really explain exactly what the creature started out as, but it mutates this creature into this monster. And basically, that's the trying to say, how dumping toxic chemicals down the drain can have hazardous effects on the environment. It's kind of, this is just kind of, taken to the extreme of what happens when you ignore that. So yeah, that's basically the creature in the movie, and then it centers around a family, the Park family. They've all got their own various Korean names. So you got Gangdao or Gangdu. He plays the central character in this movie. He's one of three siblings, along with Nam Il and Nam Ju. That's his brother and sister. He happens to live with his father, Haibong, or Hebong, I'm not sure how it's pronounced in the movie, in this little kind of restaurant, grocery store thing that's on the near the riverfront of the Han River. And they happen to live there with his daughter, who is Han Seo. And basically, like this, it explains their lives, who they are. The character, or the actors that play these characters, I mean, I think they're really well known in South Korea, but really outside of South Korea, they're not really that well known. Still do a really good job. I mean, they're obviously pros for a reason in South Korea. They know what they're doing. Yeah, you can get it in. I think it's dubbed in English. With some English subtitles. Still, it's enough. You can get the premise of the movie and what's going on in the movie. It's not hard to follow. So in that regard, it's definitely well done. So yeah, this Park family, they're living on the riverfront. The three of them, and then the brother and sister, the aunt and uncle of Park Seo, or Hung Seo. And this creature comes out of the river and it starts attacking people. Basically that's the premise of it. And during the attack, Han Seo gets kidnapped by the monster, and is held captive by the creature for pretty much the entire film. And the Park family are doing their best to get Han Seo back from this creature. And one note I did forget to mention that one of the reasons I would say is that one of the greatest monster movies ever made, besides just of how well done the film is that the creature itself is very original. It's not something that you've really seen before in a monster movie. And the other premise of it is, I mean, I know it's a little far-fetched, but it's not too far to stretch to say a creature like this might actually exist. If you mix the right amount of chemicals in a certain environment with a certain creature, it could very well produce a creature like this. That's part of what makes it so terrifying. So yeah, it's a horror movie for sure, but definitely a monster horror movie. So yeah, like I said, they basically spend the Park family. I mean, the main character, the father, Gangdu, ends up being, more or less captured by the government because they think he's infected with this virus that is stemming from the creature. And I won't give too much about how that turns out, but yeah, in the end, they basically try to rescue the niece or his daughter, the granddaughter. She's all three, and unfortunately, it doesn't turn out very successful. won't say too much exactly what happened, but they eventually do get her back. To some extent, they managed to kill the creature. Um, so yeah, the Host, great watch if you're into horror movies or monster movies. Obviously, certain people don't like that genre. It's definitely got a good family storyline as well as being a monster movie. So yeah, it's got a 14A rating. I would agree with that. I probably wouldn't recommend this for anyone under the age of 14. It's got some some horror elements to it, a bit of gore, scare tactics, that kind of thing. So yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend it for anyone under the age of 14. But yeah, great watch. One little side note that's interesting, I just figured out the director of The Host, Bong Joon-ho, is actually the director of the critically acclaimed and award-winning South Korean film The Parasite, or Parasite. So a neat little tidbit there. So you could tell it's obviously a well-done movie when you got somebody like that directing it. It was probably a little earlier in his career, but just tells you how good of a movie that is. So check it out, and yeah, have yourselves a good one. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.